Good evening tonight. Going to be interesting. I was pretty bored, and I was reading a book called "Willful Blindness" by Andrew McCarthy. I'm actually a couple of chapters in now, and covers the 1993 World Trade Center bombing. And was going through some old files of mine. I came across something that I totally forgot took place 12 years ago, which was called the Toronto hearings. And there was a number of speakers from the 9/11 Truth Movement that were invited to speak, which had a panel of the leading 9/11 truthers at the time, people like David Chandler, Dr. Graham McQueen, and then you had the unfortunates like Barbara Honegger, Richard Gage, and then this person tonight named Jay Kolar. Now, I have no idea who Jay Kolar is. I even Googled his name. Very few hits came up, but this guy somehow was invited to speak. And boy, I remember this being a whopper at the time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the presentation by Jay Kohler. It is 44 minutes, I believe, almost 45 minutes. What I'm going to do is almost like a pause and play, how I used to do it. I haven't done these in a long time. I gave up because, I used to curse a lot and stuff and got myself a shot. I was just shooting myself in the foot. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pause at certain parts of the video, and if I hear something that's misleading or just out wrong, I'll stop it and um, offer my own points and what I've learned over the years. You guys know me well enough now that are watching my videos. You know I'm not biased or partisan in any way. I only care about the facts. I'm straight up and I'm pretty dry like that, boring. That's why I don't have a very big following. So, but I would rather care about quality rather than quantity. I'm not in it for the numbers. So here we go. Let's see what this guy has to say. And I think if I remember it correctly, it's a long time ago. This guy had, yeah, it's a mess.
Well, I want to change that title to the 9/11 hijackers that weren't. I, oh, I say that because the U.S. government's story, upon close examination of the evidence, of which I'm only going to be able to present a small segment today, reveals an accumulation of flaws, distortions, omissions, video forgeries, alterations of the alleged hijackers' timelines, fabricated evidence, planted evidence, substitutions of names and doubles for the alleged, intimidation of eyewitnesses and whistleblowers, and up to now, media blacking out of protected activities of some of the alleged who had deep political connections. Under the weight of all these flaws, the official story collapses. We begin with the FBI's initial list of hijackers, which should have been released concurrently with the flight manifests that were never released after the FBI had quickly confiscated them.
It's not true. Actually, it would be, I want to say right around this time was when they were released. Moussaoui's trial. That's when it was released, actually, because they were still using the flight manifest as evidence by the federal government. So right off the bat, this guy basically is coming out all types of wrong. So, I never understood this rush to judgment to basically refute the official narrative, whatever that is. I mean, every time I ask somebody from the 9/11 Truth Movement, what is the official narrative? I get various responses, various explanations as to what that is. And so, that's to me, this is the whole essence of the problem in the 9/11 Truth Movement is that it basically comes down to they would rather believe anything, even the most ridiculous of theories, if it's in stark contrast to the official narrative. And I come to the conclusion that the official narrative to the fringe movement of the 9/11 Truth Movement is that there were 4 planes. They were hijacked by 19 Islamic fundamentalists that they crashed into the World Trade Center towers, the Pentagon, Shanksville, and that all three of the World Trade Center towers, 1, 2, and 7, came down by controlled demolition. And that's it. So a very, very narrow, minuscule view of the September 11 attacks. I mean, you leave out 99.9% of what was said in the 9/11 Commission report, as well as what wasn't said. Now, the stuff that was omitted or ignored, it's the stuff that they claim is basically in favor of the official narrative. Meanwhile, the official people at the narrative didn't investigate these issues because it contradicted at certain points the story that they told. Yeah, and this is the problem right off the bat with these people, because I'm sorry, just to go back to the Moussaoui trial, ended in 2006. So the flight manifest was public. And so Kolar was already off to a rogue start. Manifest was public after the trial. So I think this is the problem with the 9/11 truth movement, is that they automatically assumed the government's involved, the government's guilty, and anything that supports the official narrative or supports the local, state, law enforcement, because they're all in on it. It's almost like a religion at this point. Anything that goes against the worldview has to be opposed. And a lot of stuff that they believe in is on faith. Hijackers, hijacked planes, CGI, all that stuff. It's all taken on faith.
The FBI said it had located its suspects from those manifests, not to be mistaken for the passenger lists made available by the airlines, which contain none of the 19 names. But
wrong. Now, look, on the evening of September 11, 2001, the flight manifest went to the FBI and the CIA. So you're wrong. They already got the flight manifest. They just didn't publicly release them yet.
But within 24 hours, CNN had acquired this first FBI list from U.S. Customs, and one of the relevant customs officials is Robert Bonner. But it contained 5 names: a Moziar Khanid on Flight 77, and 4 others: Adnan Bukhari, Amir Bukhari, Amir Kamfar, and Abdul Rahman Alamari.
Awesome, right? Because that's right. Now, they weren't the only ones. Now, my co-researcher, DJ Thurman Detonator, actually is the only researcher I know that delves straight into this, along with Paul Thompson, the Terror Timeline, historycommons.com. The only people who actually did any type of investigation into these names. By the way, also at the same time, 9/11 Truth Movement likes to say that Abdulaziz Al-Amari is still alive, because here's a guy who basically called into BBC, and he actually called into BBC, and they ran the story that the hijackers are still alive. No, they made the mistake, and the BBC corrected this 4 years ago, because there was so many people who were saying, "Oh, the hijackers are still alive," that they had to address it. All these crackpots basically just running to the phone. The BBC's not on it, right? So Abdul Aziz Rahman Al-Amari. Think about Arab names. Arab names go by sometimes the tribes that they come from in the Gulf. And this happens with, countries like Iraq and Saudi Arabia and Bahrain and the United Arab Emirates. But they have similar sounding names. Now, he just mentioned Abdul Aziz Rahman Al-Amari. By the way, that person is actually a Saudi Arabian air pilot. That's the person that called in BBC. The hijacker says Abdul Aziz Al-Amari. Notice something missing? Rahman, right? So, and they look nothing alike. Abdul Aziz Rahman Al-Amari actually has a mustache. He's older. Abdul Aziz Al-Amari, in which the BBC and the Washington Post had gotten in touch with his family and interviewed him, is much younger.
From the Flight 11 manifest, names that the FBI dropped and replaced with Walid Anwa'il al-Shari, Satam el-Sukami, and Abdul Aziz al-Amari.
Yeah, that's the thing about the FBI when they switch these names, right? Because Amir Bukhari and his brother Adnan Bukhari, I forgot which one died. the year prior to 9/11. And what happened was that Amir Bukhari actually has a link to one of the hijackers because they found one of his cars parked at Logan Airport. I'm sorry. They found information in a car parked in Portland that connected to Muhammad Atta and Abdulaziz Al-Amari. I think it was a rental agreement or some type of business card. I forgot. DJ Thomadeni, if he's watched this video, will correct me in the comments. But that was the connection too. Strange connection when you think about it. Mosaic Kinnear, oh man, Nelson gets a lot of credit here. CNN basically called Alejandro Mosaic Kinnear. Now, they said that this is the guy that's wearing the black shirt, the black pants, and the book, and the black bag. Now, DJ did the first film I ever saw from him, 6 on 77, and basically thinks that this guy is the one that flew the plane, suspected of doing, and that the CNN basically mistook him as Hani Hanjour. Later on, this turned out to be wrong. You saw Hani Hanjour in a white shirt, and you could see his little bald head and stuff. So there's a big mystery regarding who Mosaic Kinnear is, because when you look up Mosaic Kinnear's name, all you see come up is through the stories that were told about him through the press on September 11, 2001. That's it.
Logically, that would mean that there should have been, including the name of Mohammed Atta on that first flight 11, who had not been replaced by a substitute, at least 9 Arab names from which to choose. But there weren't. Since none of the airline lists, which only contain passengers minus hijacker names, contain any of those Arab names, which were changed by the FBI, were changes the FBI had implemented, therefore tampering with crime scene evidence.
False. Now, like I said again, the flight manifest actually went to the Counterterrorism Center at the CIA. It also went to the FBI in Washington, D.C. Okay? This is evidence, right? There's a crime, air piracy, which is a federal crime. It's handled by the Department of Justice. So they collect all the evidence. Now, these flight manifests are evidence of people who hijacked this flight. If nobody hijacked these flights, this isn't evidence, this is public, right? So they kept these flight manifests. Later on, the FBI, under Attorney General John Ashcroft, with Robert Mueller, the director of the FBI, on September 27th, actually released the names with photographs of the hijackers. So Jay Kolar doesn't mention this. I wonder why. Because it wasn't kept by the intelligence services from the public all these years. I mean, this is 2011, September 11, 2011, this hearing, okay? You've had this information for 5 years, and how do you get it so wrong? I never understood.
It is important to note that reputable documented sources verified that at least 9 of the FBI's second and final list of 19, the ones depicted here, were still alive after 9/11.
See, this is what I mean. Reputable sources, right? Who? David Ray Griffin, Christopher Bolin, Jim Fetzer. Jim Fetzer with Alex Jones in 2006 or 5 actually had a panel that was aired by C-SPAN, of all places. And Jim Fetzer had that famous list, the 10 reasons why I think the hijackers are still alive, right? So Jay Kolar is only repeating reputable sources. Well, it came from who? Alex Jones and Jim Fetzer. That's who reputable sources for this guy is. Because that's where it came from. It came from them. This is the problem with the 9/11 truth movement. It started very early. Very early. It still is a problem today because the few remaining living organisms of the 9/11 truth body are still repeating these falsehoods. To this day, even 22 years later, they still can't get it right. And this is the problem we have in the 9/11 truth movement. This is the reason why I get excited and angry, because we shouldn't be making these mistakes. This is what happened with JFK. This is what happened with every big event in human history. Now, whether you want to say this disinformation is manufactured or not, I have to think 95% is not manufactured. These people are just in a rush, or They simply have to oppose the official narrative, even by believing and propagating really outlandish theories such as living hijackers. Can you imagine in 2011, they believe that the hijackers are alive. And then to this point, no hijackers ever been interviewed by anybody in alt media or from the 9/11 truth movement. Nothing in writing, nothing, no interview, nothing. But they still believe it because, like a religion, they'll go to their death. I would rather be believing the official, these theories than the official narrative. Not knowing that the official narrative is incomplete and that the incomplete information is what refutes that narrative in a lot of cases. People make the mistake that the official narrative is just a 9/11 Commission report. Well, no, it's not. The report is not all wrong. You ever read the report? There's, I think, 14 chapters in this report, over 550 pages. They went over 1.3 million documents. 1.3 million. Now, just imagine that the stuff, and this is coming from their own commission panels, including Thomas Kean and Lee Hamilton, the co-chairs, basically saying that they didn't have access to all the information. That's why it was set up to fail. Truthers were like they loved to make that declaration. Oh, the commission was set up to fail. No, it was set up to fail because they didn't get all the information. That's why. Bob Graham, the co-chair of the Joint House Inquiry, even complained that they were hindered from looking at Saudi and foreign intelligence, meaning Israel and Saudi Arabia, involvement with 9/11. Same thing for 9/11 Commission. Able Danger, a U.S. Army Defense Intelligence Agency program, that wasn't mentioned in the 9/11 Commission or the Joint House Inquiry. So there's so much stuff that was not investigated, which means that the 9/11 Commission report is an incomplete report. It's not a false report. Not all of it is false, but not all of it is true.
With proof that at least one other, Ziad Jarrah, had his identity doubled. The doubles photo on a U.S. visa, 1/3 singed by the crash, showing someone who resembled more a young Tom Jones, the singer. I don't know if you're familiar with him. And the real Jarrah's identity, therefore fabricated, and Jarrah himself framed.
I never heard this before. So what evidence is he using for this? None, because he doesn't give any. This is another problem of the 9/11 truth movement. They just repeat things, and basically, if they speculate, they won't tell you they're speculating. I will do that. If I tell somebody, because I have a duty to report only the facts, unfiltered, unbiased information, I try my best to do that because I want the people who follow my channel to be informed. That's how we make a real movement. That's how we can change things. We can't go to court basically with Jay Kolar's information and say, Your Honor, we think Ziad Jarrah is a double and that he was framed. What evidence do you got? Oh, a singed photograph that doesn't look like him, but looks like Tom Jones. You know what would happen? You would be fined. Or if the judge really wants to go all in, he'd fine you and your lawyers for filing a frivolous lawsuit. That's what happened to April Gallup in 2011 because she listened to Barbara Honegger. And her lawyers, Bill Veal and 2 others, they got fined $5 grand. Because April Gallup, who basically says that, a plane certainly did hit the Pentagon, sued American Airlines, Dick Cheney and Osama bin Laden and President Bush. What? So this is what happens when people use speculation and just, use it in a presentation like he does without saying that, hey, by the way, I think this is speculation and just take it for what it is. No, he just posits it as fact that Ziad Jarrah is a double. Therefore, he's misleading his own audience. He's not doing the truth movement any favors because people are just going to say, well, this guy's an authority. I'll just repeat where it's come from. And then when questioned, they basically don't have an answer and they'll just link to the Toronto hearings under Jay Kolar because they don't know. They're just repeating like parrots.
Nevertheless, the FBI has refused to make the necessary corrections to exonerate those 10 out of the 19 falsely accused. Okay, PowerPoint page number
See, he's
1.
already assuming that the 19 hijackers are falsely accused, right? There's no problem with saying alleged hijackers, right? Planes were hijacked. The phone calls prove that. The crashes into the World Trade Center, Pentagon, and Shanksville prove that, okay? You can't escape that. Now, the next question is, what evidence does Jay Kolar have to make it that at this point in the discussion that these are all men who have to be recognized by the FBI as still living, right? He has no evidence, none whatsoever. He just assumes it. Again, misleading his audience.
Or is that the one? No, keep going. I'm sorry. It's the one with the, that's it, go back one. Yeah, okay. First, I'm starting with the U.S. government's best evidence, which you will see is actually the worst evidence of hijackers, the Dulles Airport video.
Oh,
Compare that, the Dulles video still to a Portland jetport video still on the left. The only other video we have of the alleged boarding planes on 9/11 was the one from the Portland jetport, where in the frame on the left, Atta and Aziz Al-Amari proceeded to board a connecting flight, not the Flight 11 that crashed. While this disqualifies it as evidence of a flight that crashed, it does show the verifiable airport security data, which continues throughout the video's duration. The date, digital ongoing time of day, and the closed-circuit TV identification number, which reveals the camera's location, all necessary to authenticate an event as well as the video itself. The absence of such data on the still from the Dulles Airport video, on the other hand, which is on the right, is, is the first of 6 major problems we have with it. Unlike the Portland video, and unlike every other airport surveillance video we've seen, it lacks verifiable authenticity, which can only come from imprinted security data, the date, the digital ongoing clock, and camera number. Researcher Joe Vials in 2004, through his connections, was able to obtain this a Dulles Airport package, including outdoor photos of 9/11 Dulles Terminal. Okay, can I see the next one? No, the terminal view. There it is. Well, that's not his terminal view, but that's a sample representative of what it looks outside the terminal. I couldn't get the original because his site has been closed down. Okay.
having a hard time, Jay?
Okay.
Hmm.
I'm sorry, I lost my place. Okay, Vials meticulously examined every inch of the Dulles video, blown up over 20 times, but he could find no trace of edited out security data, thus lacking imprinted security data on the entire tape, standard for all airport videos, and without evidence to indicate erasure, there is no possibility that the Dulles video is authentic, hence the probability that is a forgery.
Here's the problem. Jay Kolar has no evidence to suggest what he's saying is true. So he's just assuming it. Let me tell you, the Portland security video, the Portland video is not a security video. It basically is the terminal video that's used by the connecting flight between Portland and Logan, all right? These guys, as you in that picture, is Mohammed Atta and Abdulaziz Al-Amari. And they basically changing into other shirts, right? They're going through bag security. Okay. The other video is a Verint system. Now, what's that? A Verint system security video at Logan is for security. The first one is not a security video. It's just X-ray video of the bags. That's where the camera took place. But that second one at Dulles is a security video. Now, the reason why there's no date and time is because Verint systems don't have a date and time, because it would encompass the bottom part of the video in which where you could see people coming in and you could see their faces. This is the reason why they kept no date and time. Also, at the same time, you have Flight 77 victims in the video where the hijackers are. In fact, one of the very first people one of the first hijackers to come into the video is Khalid al-Mihdhar and Salim al-Hazmi, who's the brother of the Wafa Hazmi. Khalid al-Mihdhar is wearing like a beige yellow shirt. Salim al-Hazmi is wearing a blue shirt. Now, in front of them is a Flight 77 victim. Her name is Marie Ray Sopper. And what makes her stand out is that she is carrying a large animal cargo holder in which her pet cat is in. She's wearing a white shirt, gray blouse. She died on Flight 77 on September 11, 2001. Unbeknownst to Jay Kolar. I have other videos, along with DJ Thermal Detonator, of Dulles Airport security, where you could see the hijackers coming into the airport. Jay Kolar is just spewing stuff that he has no evidence for, asserting it as fact. This is the primary problem of the 9/11 truth movement, because it goes against the official narrative. You can't have hijackers. We need them to be alive. We need them to be patsies. We need them to be, non-existent ever, that the government could just facilitate, profiles whenever they want, without having anybody investigate into whether these are actual people. Well, people like myself do. So do Paul Thompson, Nelson Martins, Ryan Dawson, Robbie Martin, Kevin Fenton, Ray Nowosielski, John Duffy. Goodness great, John Gold. I mean, look, you do the movement a disservice by just implying the fantastical as fact. You only hurt your circle, because only truthers are looking at this. And yeah, you'll get the everyday Joe that just comes by and says, well, I didn't know any better. But they're victims. That's all they are. But you malign the truth movement with this stuff. Can you imagine if the truth movement actually concentrated on, say, Saudi and Israeli intelligence into the hijackers pre 9/11, or by studying about the CIA and the NSA's signal intelligence operation on the Yemen hub, how far we could have gotten at this point?
Devoid of such security data, both as a security video and as evidence of an event to be used in a court of law, what possible use could this video have?
It has a ton of use, because they used that in the Moussaoui trial. Right? So if Moussaoui's lawyer basically said, well, this video is fake, according to Jay Kolar, it's a duplicate, they made it up, why didn't Moussaoui's own lawyer get him off? But there's no hijacker, no hijack plane. Moussaoui's innocent. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, Tawfiq bin Attash, Ramzi bin Al-Shib, Mustafa Hassawi, Omar al-Baluchi, the 5 that are being convicted or tried for the September 11 attacks, planning, logistical support, all that, they should be walking out of Guantanamo. There's no hijack. What are you talking about? No such thing. Air piracy. What are you talking about? These planes weren't hijacked. This is the ridiculous nature of these people, is that they don't think that far ahead. They're spontaneous. They're reactionary without thinking. By the way, in 2007, Judicial Watch, Scott Bingham filed a Freedom of Information request regarding the, through Motley Rice, got the videos released to the public. Thank you, Motley Rice, because that's who is behind the public release of the Dulles video. An actual law firm, by the way, Jay Kolar. If you're ever watching this video, which I doubt.
Located at an airport security checkpoint, a security camera that records without imprinting security data is completely suspect. Second,
Sue Sue Dulles Airport, right? You gave us fraudulent video. Who was in charge of security there at the time? Was it Argenbright? No, I think it's something else. I forgot the name of that security company. Sue them. Sue them for providing false video. Sue the FBI. That's what you're implying anyway, right? The FBI made this video. Sue them for giving you a fake video. Why didn't Motley Rice do that? Because you don't even know who released this video, much less what was in the video.
the presence of Salam al-Hazmi and Khalid al-Midhar allegedly preparing to board Flight 77 introduces the second problem. Both he and al-Midhar turned up still alive after 9/11.
No, they didn't. Again, you are going by the BBC article that the hijackers are still alive. Meanwhile, in 2000, I think in 2005 or 6, the BBC retracted. It says, no, we never said that. We got reports of people with similar sounding names. And by the way, the Khalid al-Midhar photograph that they used is not Khalid al-Midhar. Khalid al-Midhar is not bald. Doesn't have a mustache. He's clean shaven.
In al-Midhar's case, one report comes from the FBI itself, which warned all banks to watch for him after 9/11. Quote, on September 19th, 2001, the FDIC distributed an official document clearly stating that al-Midhar is alive. As for Salem, he testified for himself that on 9/11 he was working at a Saudi petrochemical complex in Yanbu, Saudi Arabia.
This guy has no understanding of Arabic names and Arabic culture whatsoever. Dave interviewed the al-Hazmi family because Salim and Nawaf al-Hazmi came from Saudi Arabia, and I believe Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. That's where Nawaf al-Hazmi got his visa. And basically, they said that they accepted the fact that their son is dead. Are they in on it too?
A third problem stems from the exterior lighting and shadows covered by Paul Zaremka, following on Vial's research on the exterior views in the Dulles video package he received.
Yeah, Paul Zaremka. I've had an email conversation with him way back about 5-6 years ago, and I told him about the Dulles video. Okay, I showed him who Marie Resapa was, because he disputes that the video is authentic. But after I showed him that, he basically had to retract. I still got those emails, and basically say, I'll have to look into this more. I never heard from him again.
A Dulles Airport terminal exterior view shows the time would be around midday and not 7:18 a.m. when the hijackers allegedly entered the security checkpoint. The exterior lighting is too bright and the shadows are wrong for an early Washington, D.C. September morning. Okay, this photograph is simply a representative view, a sample, because the other is not available at this time.
By the way, the Interior Minister, Saudi Arabia Interior Minister, Nayef, Prince Nayef, actually came out in the days after September 11th, when this confusion about Salim al-Hazmi calling in, basically saying that the names that we got were confirmed of the actual hijackers, and that the al-Hazmi family, along with the Interior Minister, Prince Nayef, basically came out and said that the FBI got it right. I guess they're in on it too, right? They're in on it too. And they're Saudis. So wouldn't Prince Nayef basically say, if he wanted to protect Saudi Arabia from a future civil litigation, right? He basically say, yeah, I never heard of this guy. Yeah, oh yeah, he's still alive. Here he is. Want to talk to him? It's like these people don't do their due diligence, honestly.
From Jovial's closed down website. but this sample exterior Dulles view suffices to show the immediate proximity of roadway just outside with a windowed entrance to the terminal, screen right. In this perspective, the security camera inside the security checkpoint is pointing screen left, which is north. And
by the way, just to add, also, I just remembered that the photograph he's saying of Salim al-Hazmi is actually Badr al-Hazmi, who they claimed was the actual hijacker who stole his identity or something like that, to that effect. But wrong. Like I said, you know, the al-Hazmi family, along with the Interior Minister, Prince Naif, came out later and said, yeah, no, the FBI were right.
Directly at the mostly windowed wall and entrance in the background. Maybe we can see a view of that. Can you just, of the interior Dulles airport? Just, yeah, keep going. That one, you know, that's the interior. You notice the bright light coming out of the background from the windows and the glass door. Okay.
Yeah, I've heard this before. Let me address this right away because this is ridiculous. So, you know, there's this theory that, the video in Dulles Airport, it couldn't have come in the early morning hours because the sun was too bright. Meanwhile, you're looking at it from a glass window through a camera lens, which magnifies the light. And this is just the leaps that they'll go to basically dismiss, ridiculous things like this. The leaps that they'll go to basically refute the simple fact that planes were hijacked on 9/11.
What I wanted you to notice here is that when we roll the video, you'll see one could expect to see some traffic in that background. We're going to hold off on that for now. And we obviously don't. It would be passing from left to right. And that is in the 2006 video release of, or after, that was found in the Moussaoui trial documents. But before that, all we had was, anyway, not once does a vehicle pass by in the background, and we're going to watch that in a minute. Absence of any background traffic movement, therefore, also undermines the video's authenticity. It took 3 years.
Isn't that something that because there was no traffic, it's early in the morning at Dulles Airport, there's actually traffic guards that allow certain traffic to go through. There's also connect ways where they don't allow traffic to go through because it would cause congestion. So this is the leaps and bounds that these people will actually go, we should see some cars pass by. How do you know? Maybe a car did pass by that's not in camera view. I mean, amazing.
For the original release of the Dulles Airport video in 2004, in a heavily edited, and they only showed heavily edited versions of between 57 seconds and 150, well, 2.5 minutes in duration, out of a possible 22 minutes from first to last alleged hijacker, which is a maximum of only 10% of total duration. And I'm thinking that those initial versions have poorer, grainier resolution than most security videos, due partially to the bright sunshine streaming in, and about twice the brightness expected when facing this northern perspective at 7:18 a.m. Bright backlight tends to wash out the resolution, also indicating the taping time around noon or so. That is, unless the camera inside the building is not facing north, in which case this could not be Dulles. Either way, the authenticity of this video is undermined. To make viewing even more difficult, can we get a view of the video now? I don't know where you have the video, but don't run it. Yeah, just leave it still. To make viewing even more difficult, in the current version we have now from the Moussaoui trial documents, no, that's not it. The video. Yeah.
Kevin Ryan. Kevin Ryan thinks I'm a CIA agent or officer.
this is an example, in the 2006 version are smudged out, not digitally, but they are disguised to prevent recognition. It looks like somebody took some sort of eraser on the film and just emulsified over the faces. Why would the US government prevent its citizens from recognizing both the alleged and other passengers and officials? And why in the 2004 original version did they release only 57 seconds to 150 seconds max? In this minuscule Dulles Airport video versions in which 90% of total duration has been deleted and an obvious smudging of faces, noticeable as passengers come into focus in the foreground and obfuscate the remaining 10%. When all versions of the Dulles video have been...
Let me tell you why. Because before the trial, these people's identities are protected because they're civilians. After the trial, when evidence is put into play, after the trial, the evidence is now public. That's why.
Made available in such a parsimonious way, and then only after family members had successfully sued for its release, the resultant effect is one of cover-up, not presentation of evidence.
No, that's what you assume. You assume it's cover-up because your premise is flawed. You automatically speculate and use that as a form of evidence, suggesting that the hijackers and the video evidence, they're all fictitious, they're doubles, or that, the evidence basically is fictitious and, they could just create whatever evidence they want without realizing that there are going to be people saying, what's your evidence for this? Instead of just believing you.
Okay, the fifth problem of the camera movement and visual manipulation, both of which I described in my chapter in 2000, which came out in 2006, at which time only the 2004 version, which was heavily edited of the Dulles video, was available. This heavy editing included cuts or splices, multiple sized views or shots of various sizes, medium shots, close-ups, and two, inexplicable, establishing long shots. But only one you'd expect from a closed-circuit TV camera, and also camera movement. Especially this camera movement appears in a shot which lasts 38 seconds in the Court TV 150-second version from 2004, which is follow-on action, zoomed in. By the way, I can't find that version anymore because that site has changed and it's no longer available. But there's evidence of the changes. Maybe, no, hold on. Well, in that previous photograph that you saw, there's evidence of changes. Okay, yeah, just right. In this.
Let me just show you this video here. This is from Dulles Airport, September 11, 2001. This is the front. Hardly anyone's seen this. This was given to me. The reason why you can't see traffic, as you can see, there's a walkway here. This is the east security view. East security, this is where they enter here and they come through here. It's the reason why you don't see traffic, because the camera view here is showing this here. Cars are going to be driving here. Reason why. It's amazing. And by the way, see this marble floor? This is what's giving that bright light here. Just astonishing ignorance. Yeah, you can see. Yeah. I'm just going to fast forward. You can see, look at all this here. Right? So, okay, let me just stop it there, right? Because I just wanted to show you that real quick, and basically just prove to you that whatever this guy is basically saying, we have to really, we really have to question whether this guy's, really legitimate or not. And if he can't get that right, what else has he not got right, right?
views or shots of various sizes, medium shots, close-ups, and 2 inexplicable establishing long shots. But only 1 you'd expect from a closed-circuit TV camera, and also camera movement. Especially this camera movement appears in a shot which lasts 38 seconds in the Court TV 150-second version from 2004, which is follow-on action, zoomed in. By the way, I can't find that version anymore because that site has changed and it's no longer available. But there's evidence of the changes. Maybe, no, hold on. Well, in that previous photograph that you saw, there's evidence of changes. Okay, yeah, just right. In this one, if you look at the floor stripe, it's moved. So you can see both. If you shoot the closed circuit TV camera in the ceiling is in one place at one time, and in 6 to 8 feet to the right in another time. Those you didn't notice it. Nobody noticed it when they saw it because of this 38-second slow motion, zoomed in close-up of the alleged Al-Midhar walking left to right in more of a medium close-up in the foreground, which intervenes between those 2 shots. The one shot presented the first 2 hijackers who arrived, and the last shot showed the other 2. Which it's impossible in a purely mechanical operation of a closed-circuit TV camera.
Who says it's impossible? You?
It betrays human intervention, selection, and exclusion of other passengers not possible in the alleged closed-circuit camera the Commission tells us we are getting our viewing experience from. It's no longer available from the Court TV site, but as I said, the photograms that we have are still happily available. And they reveal, besides the aforementioned evidence, the distinctly 2 camera setups. Are we then to conclude that there are 2 airport surveillance cameras embedded in the ceiling? Okay, next one. So you can see the camera stripe moves. But we don't have any of this in the current 2000 released version, where they decided to leave all the editing out and just show you one view that was shot from above the center floor line, or centered over the floor line. Simultaneously with this new second setup after the intervening 38 seconds of Al-Midhar, another problem has occurred.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Pray tell.
The 150-second Court TV version, which temporarily the longest of the 2004 version, has somehow neglected to include anyone showing up as the pilot Hanjour, in quotes, between the arrival of the 2 duos. In the shortest version, ironically, the 57-second one, there is a very brief glimpse of a man, but he's not Hanjour. He looks like the man in the photo on your left, the dark clothed man, all right?
Yeah. Black shirt, black pants.
Changed his shirt.
Yeah, no,
Tucked
I
in.
don't think so. The overall difficulty in viewing these versions made available to the public is that they contain only a mere fraction of the approximately 22 minutes of this Dulles footage that's going by the Commission's noting that the time of arrival of the first alleged hijackers, the pair, and the arrival of the last pair. The darkly dressed, fully bearded, heavier set mystery man in the 2004 Dulles video, small version, appears starring in the role of Hanjour. Maybe we can, I don't know if you can see the one on the right is the more recent version, and that's, so suddenly he appears in the one that was, appears in the Moussaoui trial documents. But that's still not him, okay. He was designated as Hanjour in all of the associated, the man on the left in dark, who doesn't look like him at all, was
That's right.
in all of the Associated Press releases, which received their information from the government, accompanied by the Dulles video premiere on July 22nd, 2004. Okay, so with the more recent 2006 version came the debut of this new improved poster. And the reason I'm saying that, if you take a close look at his head, he's got some hair up there, right? Or maybe he's just wearing a toupee. All right, next one of the real, there we go. That is the real Hanjour at an ATM just before 9/11/2001.
Right.
So he's thinner, lacking facial hair, and lighter than his predecessor, the second imposter. Maybe go back to that.
It's not an imposter, right? It's Mosed Khaner. DJ Thermodetonator explained this in 6 on 77. That's who CNN and I don't know what else, CBS or ABC reported on this, but CNN did certainly report on this and stated that the guy in black shirt, the black pants, the black bag, black hair, dark skin was Hani Hanjour. But later on, they said, no, this is Mosed Khaner. They switched it because they forgot that in the, I think, what's it called, came later after Mosed Khaner, Hani Hanjour. And you could see him, bald head, skinny guy, comes in later.
But he still has substantial hair in his head, and that disqualifies him as Hanjour, who had a substantially receding hairline,
Right.
almost bald. His facial resemblance is problematic too, as are most of the faces, due to the fact that in his clear 2000 version, as people approach the camera, the smudges suddenly come up and vanish their faces. They become faceless. All right, so let's run the Dulles Airport video now. Well, before we run it, go ahead. We'll go back to it. And with example of the faceless people, they become faceless. That's not heavy makeup smearing, by the way. It's typical of what happens to almost everyone when they come into view in the foreground. Someone deliberately disguised them. Historically, Hani Hanjour is one of the most traveled of all the alleged in and out of the United States, many times as he resided here on and off for the previous 10 years. Conceivably, he could have smoothly cleared the checkpoint in a matter of 30 seconds or less, but the man who appeared as the solo Arab in between the arrivals of the Arab duos would not have merited much attention for one very important reason. He was not Hanjour at all. Hence, challenging the integrity of the Dulles video is the fact that the FBI and the Commission, having access to like this ATM photo of Hanjour, would surely have noticed that the man dressed in dark slacks and dark short sleeve shirt does not remotely resemble Hanjour, yet they apparently tried to pass him off. From all the accounts,
Let's talk about that fake video that you claim is fake. Now, let me show you. East checkpoint. And different camera view. East checkpoint. And let me go through it with you. Here is Dulles Airport security video. Right here, where I have it set up. This is Marie Ray Sopper. Red cargo holder, white shirt, gray blouse, carrying her bag. Let's play it. There she goes, going through airport security checkpoint. And then, shortly afterwards, you will see Khalid Al-Mihdhar and Salim Al-Hazmi, and I'll pause the video. Now, this video would not be known to Jay Kolar, by the way. He has no idea. I would love to have seen him explain away this video. I guess this is fictitious too, because there's no timestamp. Ridiculous. There's people walking in. This is to the connecting gate to the airport, to Flight 77 and other flights from American Airlines. Airlines have different gates. This is an American airline gate. Over here would be, who knows, Delta Air, United. And you see more people trickling in, but soon enough, you'll see Khalid Al-Mihdhar and Salim Al-Hazmi. Another victims of Flight 77 coming in. And this video actually, like I said, wasn't known to a lot of people. This was given to me by people that I commiserate with, who filed a FOIA request regarding the 9/11 Commission archives that was made public from the report. And the person who filed the FOIA shared it with the person who shared it with me. And that's how I got, this video. I got like 9 other Dulles videos made on September 11th, 12th. I'm sorry, September 11th. I think the day before, September 10th. Now you're not going to see Hani Anjur because I'm not going to play the whole video, but just want to show you Khalid al-Mihdhar and Salim al-Hazmi, and that if he thinks that video is not authentic, it's made up, well, then this one is too. Because look, this is going to show already a Flight 77 victim. I don't know how he's going to explain that away. How do you explain that away? You can't. You just can't. And DJ Thorendenia identified another Flight 77 victim, and I forgot who it was. It was an older man. It's a while back when he told me, and he's in the video that this guy was playing in the presentation, in the infamous Dulles video. I forgot the name of that guy, but yeah, I mean, when you just insinuate that videos can be made, they can be duplicated by the government. Well, it's not as easy as you think it is back in 2001. It's not. There they are. That's Khalid al-Mihdhar. Now, by him is Salim al-Hazmi. Khalid al-Mihdhar, Salim al-Hazmi. Khalid al-Mihdhar is carrying a backpack and this carry-on bag. There he is with the white shirt. So there you have it, right there. Salim al-Hazmi, Khalid al-Mihdhar. That's all I wanted to show. So the videos are authentic. Just wanted to show you that.
So we have of Hani Hanjour. He was slightly built, okay, thin, gaunt, just over 5 feet tall. So the U.S. government had as its best evidence the Dulles video purportedly showing them preparing to board a plane that they said crashed into the Pentagon.
Well, first of all, no, that's not the only evidence they had. The FBI actually interviewed the employees of Dulles who gave them their boarding passes. Who basically, they interviewed Michael Tuohy, who's a ticket agent at Portland, who gave a connecting flight from Mohammed Atta and Abdulaziz Al-Amari. And then later on, Vaughn Alex was a ticket agent for American Airlines in Logan, who saw Mohammed Atta and Abdulaziz Al-Amari. Now, the FBI went to Dulles. And basically, according to the guy who was in charge of security there, he was in a interview with the guy from Unsafe at Any Altitude, the author. I forgot the husband and wife duo. I can't remember their names, but they wrote a book called Unsafe at Any Altitude. And the guy who was in charge of security at Dulles said the FBI came in mid-afternoon, looked at the security camera video, and started pointing out the hijackers by name. And he was saying that, I always thought it was funny and interesting that, how did the FBI know these guys right off the bat unless they knew them prior to the boarding of the planes and probably prior to 9/11 for weeks or months or even years? Who knows?
All 6
Susan and Joe Trento. That's who wrote the book Unsafe at Any Altitude. And they interviewed a security guard on September 10th, Eric Gill, who said that he saw Nawaf al-Hazmi at Dulles Airport on September 10th. He pointed him out, but he wasn't on Flight 77. His brother was, Salim al-Hazmi. That's in the video. And then they interviewed ticket agents, security officers who, cleared Salim al-Hazmi for ran their data, their additional security secondary screening. All this is public information now, and this was known to even Jay Kolar if he went that far. But since he doesn't believe that they really did hijack these planes, they're not going to look at this evidence because it confirms what they already want trying to deny.
These problems, however, combine to undermine the Dulles video's authenticity and corroborate its forgery. It's the flimsiest evidence upon which the entire weight of the official story collapses. No airport security video has appeared for the other flights. Therefore, no evidence exists that any of the so-called hijackers ever boarded planes that crashed on 9/11.
Wrong, because like I said, and this is available to you at the time in 2011, if you took care to read it like I did. They've interviewed the FBI, these people at all these airports, at Newark, at Dulles, at Logan, at Portland, the connecting flight. They've interviewed these people, and they've already admitted that they've seen these people and gave them their boarding passes. The boarding passes are public. It's on my WordPress.
The bin Laden confession video forgery, I'm just going to mention this briefly.
Here we go.
It's everybody who's seen it can see that the guy in it wasn't him.
Wrong. Okay, first of all, I know where you're going with this because I've heard this before. These two fad space event is called video compression. Now, because you're ignorant regarding this, you can't say that, oh, this actually is a double, or it's just basically they just made the video up. Because later on in the video, it doesn't just show bin Laden, it shows two other al-Qaeda operatives and a Saudi named Khalid al-Harbi, who's an associate of bin Laden. Khalid al-Harbi is the guy that bin Laden, goes down and kisses on the cheeks, and two other al-Qaeda operatives, Dr. Ayman al-Zawahiri and Suleiman Abu Ghaith, who's part of the media committee for al-Qaeda. Now, if you're saying that bin Laden, Suleiman Abu Ghaith, Dr. Ayman al-Zawahiri are all fakes, why didn't they come out and basically say, oh, that video that the government put out that's not us? In fact, the opposite is true. They never denied 9/11. Khalid al-Harbi actually went to Saudi Arabia because they promised him a pardon if he just turned himself in. And he's in a wheelchair because he can't walk. You could look him up on Google. Khalid, Khaled, al-Harbi. Al-Harbi, Harbi. These are real people, by the way. They're not fakes.
Well, you should be able to notice it. The major proof the Bush administration touted to incriminate bin Laden, hijackers, and al-Qaeda. This bin Laden that appeared in the so-called bin Laden confession video was a rotund, jolly bin Laden imposter who praised the 5 great martyrs who turned up alive after 9/11. However, inaccuracies and distortions of White House and Pentagon translations from the Arabic went unreported in American press. Saudi experts and German investigators alike have found these translations manipulative.
Yes, you finally hit on an actual conspiracy, is that the translations were misleading. And this came from Der Spiegel, a German publication, later came on and said that they had a German linguist basically saying that what bin Laden was saying wasn't exactly what was translated in the transcriptions, right? The English transcriptions. It's not that bin Laden was fake. Even they don't admit that he's fake. It's the actual bin Laden in the video. See the watch on his wrist? See the ring, the middle ring on his finger? That's what he wears. It's like a military watch in his hand.
and misleading American people. Correctly translated, the bin Laden video, far from providing proof to support the official story, actually discredits itself and the official story. Ali al-Ahmed, director of the Saudi Institute, accurately translates bin Laden, identifying 9 of the suspected hijackers by name: Mohammed Atta, Nawaf al-Hazmi, Salem al-Hazmi, and, quote, 4 from the al-Ghamdi tribe, and, quote, 2 others, both named al-Shehri. Now, it's difficult if the 2 that were on the original FBI list weren't on that list, it's difficult to realize how we would be doing that. And of these 9 that bin Laden is in the bin Laden in that video names, only 5, including Wa'il and Walid al-Shehri, Salem al-Hazmi, Saeed al-Ghamdi, turned up alive.
See, yeah. He's just positing his opinions that he heard from elsewhere, like Jim Fetz and Alex Jones, as fact. Where are the overwhelming evidence that these people are alive? First of all, you're making a very remarkable claim, right? That the hijackers are alive. Where is the evidence that they're alive? He just doesn't show you. He doesn't even refer you to any place where links, a book, anything. He just says that they're alive. Therefore, like I said before, he's misleading his audience. Now, everybody that's sitting there saying, wow, the hijackers are still alive. Jay Kolar just said it. Oh, I guess so. He's the man, you know, he's researches it. So they just believe him. Now they go wherever, home or whatever, they tell people, hey, did you know that? And by the way, that's how disinformation spreads. Thanks to people like this guy.
In other words, the bin Laden imposter here is erroneously praising some men who did not martyr themselves.
Meanwhile, I have martyrdom video wills of a lot of these. I think I like 12, including people from the al-Shehri clan, Walid and Wa'il al-Shehri. I have video wills uploaded to Odyssey. Go watch them. They're there. These are real people. Amazing.
Move on to the covert intelligence use of doubles to frame Ziad Jarrah and, by implication, Al-Qaeda.
Right. What is your evidence to show this remarkable claim? See, he's just flippantly saying, fake hijackers, fake video, no one's real. They didn't get on these planes. Just flippantly making these statements without giving you information where he got this from. He as an authority, an alleged authority, self-appointed, he's basically has a duty, a moral and investigative duty to inform responsibly his audience. Do you think he's doing that right here? Do you think he's acting in good faith? He may believe he is, but he's not. This is not how an investigative reporter or an independent investigator conducts an investigation. You don't get to assume and believe it's fact.
The role of doubles shed significant explanatory light on the entire covert operation of 9/11. Maybe we can run the tape while I'm talking about that, because there's not going to be time. I'm going to let you look at the video, and while I'm talking, see if you see any cars moving by in the background on that roadway that I mentioned.
As you can see, as I just showed you, that's not a roadway. That's a walkway. That's why you don't see cars. It's a marble walkway where the sun is hitting the marble and shows that bright light that you talked about before. Oh, it's too bright. Couldn't have been early in the morning. Stunning. These people, just, it really grinds my gears because I try to be so careful in trying to relate information and information to people because I see what the truth movement became. It became one giant orgy of misinformation, right? And because they can't let go of this, because if they do, they become part of the official narrative. And the official narrative is hijackers and hijacked planes. They can't believe that. Not realizing that when you know that these planes were hijacked by hijackers, you open up a door to an expansive conspiracy so large and so big that you can name specific people that were involved with the pre-intelligence of these people that were involved with the attacks. But it may be too much for these people because when they look at the geopolitics of 9/11, they have a very small view of it. It's very expansive. Could be very demanding. And it is. It's intimidating. But once you have a general understanding of it, you don't need to be an expert, right? Look at me. Not an expert. Just some guy in a room and reads documents and files. But when you look at the information, it opens up so many doors to show, hey, wait, what the CIA, the NSA, Israeli Mossad, Saudi GID. Wow, this relates to geopolitics, policy, foreign policy involving the White House. Oh, we went to all this makes sense. But when you cut off hijackers and hijacked planes, you don't look into the motivations of these people. You don't look into the specific operations of the intelligence agencies. You don't look into the foreign policy guidelines that predate the operations, why these operations actually help to benefit certain people who wrote those files and policy guidelines, which we see today.
Without the discovery of their existence, 9/11 would be without discovery the doubles, 9/11 would be an impossible riddle. According to Webster Tarpley, doubles not only explain the apparently impossible, they are extremely useful in standard covert intelligence practice. Quote, if there is something the terrorist controllers need a patsy to do, but which the patsy is unwilling or incapable of accomplishing, then a double will step in to see that the necessary action is indeed carried out.
Right. So if you're assuming that one of the 19 men suddenly had a second thought and said, you know what, I'm not going through with this, that suddenly a double appears out of nowhere and basically goes along with hijacking the plane, but you don't believe that any of the hijacked flights crashed where they did on September 11th. So what are we talking about here? Who cares about a double? Just come out and say it. You're a guy that has questions about the validity of hijacked flights. The hell with the hijackers. Because if you don't believe that the hijackers are on these planes, now you don't, by default, you don't believe that these planes actually crashed where they crashed. So in other words, you're either a hologram guy, one who believes that the planes actually never took off at the airport and that the planes actually on these videos are just holograms and CGI, or you're somebody who believes, yeah, these planes were hijacked by doubles. They weren't the actual hijackers. And suddenly they were replaced with drones, and that these drones crashed into the World Trade Center, Pentagon, Shanksville. Not providing an ounce of evidence for any of these scenarios, by the way. You're just assuming it. But to you, so far, it's just that the hijackers, these are doubles. Why? Why would you need to have a double? Why don't you just assert that the hijackers got on these planes and basically, were switched for drones or holograms or whatever? Therefore, you can always blame No, you even go further than that. You just don't believe in hijackers. And to you, this is the official narrative. Like I said before, you can't believe the official narrative because someone told you, or you just basically asserted that the federal government is guilty without even looking at 9/11 as a crime. You basically, before you went to the crime scene, you basically said that the American government is guilty. That's like saying, and I used this analogy before, a homicide detective goes to a crime scene, and just before he looks at it, goes, I know what didn't happen here. Imagine the shock and horror of a person's victim's family hearing that. Oh, by the way, we know what didn't happen here. Well, your loved one wasn't killed here. Your loved one doesn't exist, right? The murderer doesn't exist.
Recall the Lee Harvey Oswald doubles, whose several appearances in 1963 made it seem like Oswald was in two places at once.
Right.
If there were a Lee Harvey Oswald Award for 9/11, it would certainly go to Ziad Jarrah and his doubles.
You probably don't even have an idea about Ziad Jarrah's Israeli intelligence family, right? Not an idea. Let's keep
Doubles were used to frame Ziad Jarrah and thereby implicate Al Qaeda. On January 30th, 2001, a 4-hour interrogation of Ziad Jarrah transpired in the Dubai Emirates airport, which is a known CIA intercept point, which Jarrah, in quotes, meaning his double, simply walked into.
Okay, he just assumes that Ziad Jarrah in Dubai is a double. What evidence does he have that this is a double? None, because I know the story you talk about. I remember when Ziad Jarrah was stopped over at Dubai, and they actually called the CIA and said, hey, this guy's got an Afghanistan passport with Al-Qaeda tags. And CIA said, let him in.
During the interrogation, this Jarrah, the double, said that he had spent, quote, the previous 2 months and 5 days, unquote, in Pakistan and Afghanistan, where bin Laden's Al-Qaeda training stronghold was located, and said he was returning to Florida. But he did not. Upon release from interrogation, according to CNN's McVicker and Farage, quote, Jarrah boarded a KLM flight in the early hours of January 31st and flew to Europe. Someone must have inputted, quote, national security override, unquote, into U.S. government computers next to his name for, in the next 7 months before 9/11, at least one of the two Jarrahs would travel to the U.S., Lebanon, Germany, and back to the U.S. without so much as metaphorically raising an intelligence agency's eyebrow. After 9/11, investigators confirmed that...
Wait a minute, that's wrong. Tell the whole story. When he got stopped over in Dubai, he basically was questioned by authorities there. And this is coming from the Washington Post. They ran his information. They found out he was from Lebanon. They looked at his passport, and it basically had a stamp on it coming from Afghanistan, a known terrorist hotspot at the time. They called the CIA. This is not speculation. This is for the public record. You're the one speculating. You're the one speculating that Ziad Jarrah, this is a double, without adding any evidence whatsoever. Even the article that you quote never says it was a double. So where you got this from?
Jarrah had spent at least 3 weeks in January 2001 at an Al-Qaeda training camp in Afghanistan, unquote. However, this itinerary must belong to Jarrah's double because,
How?
according to Arnie Krutoff's Florida Flight Training Center, Jarrah, where he trained, Jarrah had been a student there continuously for the previous 6 months, and because the flight school there confirmed he was there in Venice, Florida until January 15, 2001. With the flight school's confirmation, we already know that the Ziad Jarrah at Florida Flight Training Center could not have been the one at the Al-Qaeda camp in Afghanistan and later passing through Dubai. Moreover, the testimony of Ziad, you want to switch to a next one? Yeah.
No, that's wrong. This is before. Ziad Jarrah, total, he left the country more than any other hijacker. He left 6 times out of the country. Germany, Spain, Lebanon twice, and I think Afghanistan once or Pakistan once.
Yeah, we can look at Jarrah's from the Moussaoui document. Moreover, the testimony of Ziad's family that he arrived in Lebanon in January 26 to be with his father, who had just undergone open heart surgery, and that he visited his father in the hospital every day until after January 30th, corroborates Ziad's whereabouts and eliminates the possibility of his presence in Dubai en route from Afghanistan. So it had to be Ziad Jarrah's double, a covert intelligence operative who just waltzed into the known.
Right. You're making a huge leap here, right? What is your evidence for this? He doesn't give it, right? He just doesn't give it, because now he has to explain, oh, who is this double? Where did you get this information from? No, he just says it. This is what the fringe movement of the truth movement do. They just assert it as evidence.
CIA intercept as if the whole episode had been scripted in advance. Both Emirati and European intelligence sources confirmed the following to CNN, quote, "The questioning of Jarrah fits a pattern of a CIA operation begun in 1999 to track suspected al-Qaeda operatives who were traveling through the United Arab Emirates.
Yes.
These sources told CNN that UAE officials were often told in advance by U.S. officials which persons were coming through the country and whom they, the CIA, wanted questioned."
Way, you're right there, right? But you add the fantastical to it, therefore just poisoning the well altogether. You don't need to. You're touching on the real cover-up of 9/11.
One source provided CNN with a drawing of the Dubai airport and described how people wanted for questioning were intercepted, most often at a transit desk. U.S. officials declined to comment on whether the CIA operated this way at the Dubai airport, of course. Keeping in mind the purpose and historical role of the double in covert intelligence agency operations, this particularly well-prepared double, who not only supplied documentation, but also 5 years later, after someone had doctored the U.S. visa photo, well, maybe you can show the view.
What evidence do you have this doctor?
Compressing it horizontally and lightening the eyes expression, presumably for release in the 2006 Moussaoui trial exhibits. I don't know if you can see that. We go on to the Moussaoui trial exhibit and see if we can, is it large enough? If you just, when you looked at the previous view, we'll study this picture on the Moussaoui trial documents. I don't think you can see it that well, but it's in the photograms that I have that are larger in the beginning of my chapter in the update. His head has been compressed horizontally and the eyes have been lightened to presumably for release in the 2006 Moussaoui trial exhibits where he first shows up to more closely resemble Jarrah's look. This operation smacks of a well-orchestrated setup geared to call attention to this incident as one that would later incriminate not only Jarrah but also al-Qaeda. Through the double covert operative Jarrah's sojourn and 3-month stay in al-Qaeda stronghold Afghanistan, he became the desired link that moles inside the U.S. government needed to pin the 9/11 rap on al-Qaeda.
Well, first of all, Ziad Jarrah wasn't the only al-Qaeda operative, right? That we alleged al-Qaeda operative, right? There were other people. In fact, the two first hijackers that came inside the United States were known al-Qaeda operatives that were involved at some level with the Balkans fight against the communists, that were involved with the Chechen war, that were involved with the USS Cole bombing, that were at the Malaysian summit meeting seen by Malaysian authorities, and later the CIA knew about this too, as well as the NSA, who heard the phone calls between an al-Qaeda USS Cole mastermind, Tawfiq bin Attash, Walid bin Attash, also known as Khalid, who talked about Khalid al-Mihdhar and Nawaf al-Hazmi and Salim al-Hazmi to come to a Malaysian summit meeting. But I doubt you even know that much, right? Now, there's your link to al-Qaeda in 9/11, Khalid al-Mihdhar and Nawaf al-Hazmi, not so much the Hamburg cell, right? There's so much mystery behind Ziad Jarrah and Muhammad Atta, right? The hell with the muscle hijackers. They're just there to, make sure that the planes are, not taken over by the passengers. When you talk about the pilot hijackers and you look into their backgrounds, especially Ziad Jarrah, Muhammad Atta, I see that you don't even touch on the real conspiracy involving Ziad Jarrah and Israeli intelligence. No, you just basically say Ziad Jarrah's a double. Therefore, you don't look into Ziad Jarrah anymore, right? Just look into the whole double thing. Oh, God, it's a killer. killed him.
Another piece of evidence that should have cast suspicion on this Jarrah double is in the fact that he carried a valid U.S. multiple entry visa in his passport, a fragment of which, conveniently horizontally compressed, it could be said, by the heat that left it 1/3 singed, but which should have totally obliterated it. It should be said, through the heat partially melting, it turned up in the Flight 93 debris field. This fragment of evidence.
If you're gonna say that Ziad Jarrah was on the plane, right? Just say he was on the plane. Why would you leave a burnt passport, which would show that he was on the plane, if you're going to cover up the fact that he was on the plane in the first place? Why? We have the boarding pass. We had the people said they saw him at the airport. But that doesn't mean that he was in the plane, right? Because after the TMZ special, which showed you could get out of the plane while in the plane before it takes off with the electronic E1 trapdoor, which I never knew before that. Stunning display of ignorance. It really grinds my gears.
Its identification by Emirati officials in Dubai as belonging to the multiple entry visa they inspected there, combined with the fact that the person carrying this visa and passport could not have been the real Ziad Jarrah.
According to who? You, right? Because you're not providing any information which shows that this is actually a valid statement. You're just asserting it. You asserted all throughout this middle presentation that there's a double here. You didn't even mention, you just asserted nothing. No info, nothing, not even a name. Oh, this person said this, or I got it from this article. No, you just said it was a double. This is the irresponsible nature of people like this guy.
As he was in Florida and Lebanon while his double was showing up in Afghanistan and Dubai, effectively clears the accused Ziad Jarrah of involvement in 9/11 and of the U.S. government charges against him.
You don't get to make that statement without providing evidence, guys.
Okay, so during questioning by Emiratis, this Jarrah, 26 years old, divulged that he had spent the previous months there in Afghanistan, and he had that visa, the multiple entry visa. The controllers of Jarrah's double probably could not have anticipated the real Jarrah's father's open heart surgery, or that someone in management at the flight.
Controllers? Who are these controllers? Where'd they come from? Just the controllers of this double. Who are they? It's just like Alex Jones saying the Illuminati, New World Order, right? Who are they? Who are these people? Be specific. Stop misleading your audience. Stop
He
it.
attended would supply the exact dates of his presence there, especially after Jeb Bush had shown up 2 a.m. on the morning after 9/11 to personally supervise the massive confiscation of police station and flight school records by the FBI
that's true.
as they were loaded,
That's
file
true.
cabinets and all, into Ryder rental trucks,
That's
and
right.
then onto a C-130 transport to be flown into the Bermuda Triangle, for all we know.
Yeah, who knows? Hey, wait a minute. We're touching on a real conspiracy. See, this is the problem with you, is that you touch on certain conspiracies that are actually true, and then you mix it up with these ridiculous theories that you just pontificate through. It's just ridiculous. Why do you need to do that?
But since the controllers had apparently picked the wrong time for Jarrah's double to visit bin Laden's al-Qaeda camp and incriminate his namesake, the plan didn't entirely work, and documentation of the existence of Jarrah's double has been possible.
By the way, we have video of Ziad Jarrah and Muhammad Atta at Tarnak Farms. Now, we don't have sound, but we have video. It's the only video in the world that exists currently of the two men actually meeting and in Afghanistan. I have the video.
How much time do I have left? Oh, okay, good. Now we move on to the photographic evidence of two Ziad Jarrahs ignored by the 9/11 Commission. PowerPoint, yeah. The one with both, just the two. Yeah, okay, no, go back, yeah, great. Okay, of the Jarrah photographs released through the media, The 1999 Lebanese passport with a circular ink stamp. Oh, okay, that's not the right one. Oh,
Guy's a mess.
okay. I don't have them numbered, so yeah. There it is. Yeah, okay. These are the real Ziad Jarrah. Okay. His 1999 Lebanese passport on the left, especially clear photo representative of all but one other photograph, which is the U.S. visa photograph, 1/3 burnt away, that was recovered from the wreckage. That passport photo shows marked differences from the rest. Okay, you want to go on to the next one. Yeah, the one on this is the Ziad Jarrah I'm talking about now is the one on the left that we had earlier.
Let's just skip this.
Okay, so now the best evidence that Jarrah was framed is he was born Sunni, but educated in Christian schools. He grew up in a well-to-do secular environment. He had dozens of friends, classmates, instructors, family, and landlords. They were all interviewed, and they all testified he was apolitical, non-religious,
Right.
more a jet setter than a jet pilot. Well-liked, outgoing,
Yep.
friendly, and loved to party. A friend who once led him to mosque, Abdul Rahman al-Makadi, called Jarrah a, quote, weak Muslim,
That's right.
unquote. Finally, all his Florida flight school classmates avoided flying with Jarrah. When the word got out that he was a lousy pilot, student pilot, the U.S.
Actually, no, it's the opposite was true. They found that he was a good pilot. He received his instrument ratings license at the Florida Air Traffic School. They all liked him over there. And he did have multiple people that fly with him because they liked the way he flew. They liked his attitude. They thought he was going to be a great pilot. This came out later. And at no point did they say he was a piss poor pilot. Him and Muhammad Atta were actually very good pilots. So was Marwan al-Shadi. The only one who was a little bit suspect was Hani Andrew, but he was the most experienced of them all. So this stuff right here that you're talking about, a lot of it's true, but some of it's not true.
government has never provided a flight manifest or any other evidence to show Jarrah ever boarded, replete with innuendo, hearsay, forged documents, and fabrications.
False. We have the boarding pass. It's public. You probably didn't see it because you don't care for evidence. It's in the Moussaoui trial that you mentioned all throughout this presentation. That's where I got it from.
The official legend of Jarrah's U.S. stay deviates significantly from the facts and eyewitness accounts and uses media complicity to distort his character. There's also, for example, the investigative media should have asked why, according to the St. Petersburg Times in Florida, quote, Jarrah, the imposter, already had a pilot's license in 1999. Well, they called him just Jarrah, but it had to be the imposter, because when the real Jarrah had not yet attended flight school until the summer of 2000. Moreover, demonstrating sub-average skills trying to obtain one. On July 25th, 2001, Jarrah, who had not been getting along with Atta, this is like a couple of months before 9/11, decided to leave Florida, apparently for good, because his ticket was a one-way from Miami to Dusseldorf, Germany, to rejoin his fiancée, Sengun. From that date on,
False. So he had basically a girlfriend named Azel Sengun, and she was living in Greifswald, Germany. That's where they met. And what happened was that he was arguing with Muhammad Atta, who basically, was against this, idea of a Muslim having a girlfriend without marriage. Basically argued with Ziad Jarrah. And Ziad Jarrah left for Germany, and he was allowed to bring Azel Sengun back to the United States. And I think it was for a week in Florida. He was allowed to leave and bring her back to Germany and came back. I see you didn't mention this. And this was in 2001.
Jarrah is literally not Jarrah, and Jarrah is not literally not Jarrah, and there are increased signs of the insertion of at least one double. Although they say he was somehow persuaded to return the following month, wouldn't handlers need him close by for liquidation? That one-way ticket signaled a parting of ways, and typically when a patsy becomes uncooperative in a covert intelligence operation, the handlers are prepared to substitute doubles.
Isn't that something? Everything he's saying here, he's just making it up. It's not in the public record, nowhere, nothing. This is remarkable information he's saying that should have been everywhere. All media should be all over. Nothing. Nothing. Don't know where. Yeah, I think he's just making it up. Therefore, not only he's just, hurting his own audience, but you got to question, why is this guy doing this? Right? Now, I'm not going to say he's a manufactured asset. I don't believe that. This guy's a nobody. I just think that he wants to sound different. But like I said, anything that goes against the official narrative will be believed, even if it's the most ludicrous.
Given the stakes here, they could no longer rely on the real Jarrah. Other documented evidence for Jarrah doubles includes the following. 1. In Venice, a second residence exists for Jarrah, where the real Jarrah never stays while attending flight school. On July 10th, 2001, the double Jarrah with a little I after it, Ziad, renting at Charles Lisa's Lauderdale by the Sea property, fraudulently produces a duplicate Florida driver's license that changes his name to Ziad Samir Jarrah. That's the photo on your right. You'll notice that it wasn't the original, it's the replacement or a duplicate. And it possibly shows an original issue date of May 2nd, but the real Jarrah didn't move to that address until the end of June. 3, compare the original Jarrah Florida driver's license with its so-called replacement. Well, we can't do it because we haven't seen the original. But wait a second, we do have what's named an original, but it's the Harding Street, Hollywood address. That you notice now that it shows a dark man who does not at all resemble Jarrah, and is the Musawi trial exhibit photo in the Musawi trial exhibit number MM00196. Now, can we go to the next one? That exhibit, the government exhibit pairs. There's 2 exhibits here, left and right. There's 2 separate exhibits, and in both of them, Jarrah is paired. Well, the first exhibit pairs Jarrah's dark double with Jarrah's Tom Jones lookalike double. So that's neither of which are Jarrah. The second one, 2 different Jarrah doubles coexist rather peculiarly. All right, that's the other one, precariously.
Guy's a mess. Straight mess.
The dates on the Florida driver's license, okay, we did that. Suggest evidence tampering or forgery.
What evidence?
However, the 1816 Harding Street on the Florida license was already, in fact, the dark double's residence, beginning on April 23rd, 2001. We know this because landlord corroborated the use of the dark double when she said, quote, Jarrah rented at 1816 Harding Street in Hollywood from April 23rd to June 23rd, presenting a German passport and a student ID card as ID. That was Carol, the landlord at 1816 Harding Street, as to, differentiated from landlord Charles Lisa at the Lauderdale by the Seas apartments, where the dark double of Jarrah shows up on June 2nd, 2001, with another alleged hijacker's double, that of Ahmed Al-Hasnawi. Let's switch to.
Where do you get? Where's this all coming from? I don't know, man. It's amazing. I could never live with myself doing this. I couldn't if I want to be like somebody who just doesn't care, who just wants to make money or stay relevant, just have a growing channel, I would have quadruple the amount of people I have now. I'm coming up on 3,000 subscribers. To me, that's unbelievable. But I could easily have 20,000 if I just acted like Jay Kolar. Easy. But because I stick to straight evidence and I'm dry, I don't, a lot of people basically, don't find me interesting, or the stuff I'm saying is not sexy enough for them. They need a little bit of the, the imagination involved. But I could easily do that. What this guy's doing, he's just making stuff up.
Hasnawi. Okay. Okay. This was documented, that they showed up there, was documented by Charles Lisa when he, quote, he says, he photocopied their German passports as proof of identity on June 2nd, 2001. But of course, all the Moussaoui trial document shows is that incriminating photo of the dark Jarrah in a Florida license, not in a passport.
It's a copy. That's why it's dark. Let's just.
They would never provide the German passports, which was proof of identity on June 2nd, 2001, the day after al-Hasnawi, the guy on your right, the double, departed Saudi Arabia with a passport stamped, quote, Bahrain International Airport, dated 1 June 2001. Coincidentally, the photograph of al-Hasnawi, like the Jarrah's dark doubles, could easily have been doctored and spliced into a U.S. visa because it was so dark.
When you make a statement, anybody who's watching this video, right? When you make a statement, you are held liable for making that statement to make sure that it's a factual statement, something like pertaining to 9/11. You can't be 100% right all the time. I'm not. People have to remind me about certain things. I tend to forget. Yeah, I'm 53. Anyway, yeah, I'm not 100% right, but I strive to be. That's the difference between me and this guy, is that I have it. I'm taking it as a duty to inform an audience about a specific time in history, 9/11, to make sure that I only present factual corroborated evidence, and that if I'm questioned about anything I'm sharing, whether it's from a comment, from a friend, hey, where'd you get this from? It is now my duty, my responsibility to provide that information to that person. Imagine someone asked me, hey, where'd you get this piece of information? I'm saying, just believe it. Would you just want to believe me? Or do you want to know something? That's what this guy's doing. He's basically saying, look, just believe me. Not providing any evidence whatsoever that he has a duty and a responsibility for. But he's not an investigator. And he's not a truther. Even though he likes to pretend he is. Oh, look, I'm at a truther hearing in Toronto. And you would think, with an audience before you, paying audience too, that they walk out knowing something, not believing something. Why? Because with knowledge comes power, comes information, comes responsibility to act. You can't act on belief. Can't go to court.
Like the dark Jarrahs. After 9/11, landlord Lisa said he provided the FBI with the photocopies of Jarrahi with an I and al-Hasnawi's German passports, which the FBI confiscated and never made available along with other evidence they found in the apartment. So at least one of Jarrah's doubles was a German national because he had a German passport. And those who have tried to obtain German passports know that it's very difficult to do this unless you are a native German.
In 1999, I'm sorry, 1996, Ziad Jarrah traveled from Lebanon to Greifswald, Germany. Went to the University of Greifswald, where he studied electrical engineering. And then moved to Hamburg. And I think he studied applied sciences. He went there with his cousin, Salim al-Jarrah. So he wasn't alone. And you didn't even mention this much, right? So if you're saying Ziad Jarrah is a double, that means that Salim al-Jarrah, his cousin, is also a double. But you never mentioned Salim al-Jarrah because you probably have no idea that when Ziad Jarrah got to Germany in 96, he traveled with his cousin. This is corroborated by his family. But they're in on it, according to him. They must be. See, this is the problem with people like this guy. He doesn't think that the ramifications of his words have consequences. He's saying there's a double with Ziad Jarrah at some point, but he doesn't tell you which point that is. So you just assume Ziad Jarrah is a double. So that means that Ziad Jarrah that left his home in Lebanon was actually not Ziad Jarrah, but it was a double. And that he went with his family member, his cousin, Salim al-Jarrah, to Greifswald, Germany. His girlfriend, Azel Sanguine, is not talking to Ziad Jarrah, it's talking to a double. But she doesn't realize it. She just thinks it's Ziad Jarrah. His uncle, Assam al-Jarrah, who lives in Germany, who he doesn't mention, meets with Ziad Jarrah, doesn't realize he's talking to a double. All this is basically coming back to haunt this guy because for the regular average Joe, they wouldn't know this information unless they come across it. But for someone like myself, I would say, Jay Kolar, how is it that Ziad Jarrah's double was not known by his cousin or his uncle? You know what I'm talking about here? And then now he's going to be put on the spot because now he's got to come up with a really quick answer, a quick wit, and basically say, well, they're doubles too. And you see, this is, well, they don't realize he's a double. How do you know something, right? But he's going to be held account for his statement. Or he could basically come out and shoot and say, you know what? I got it wrong. It was actually Ziad Jarrah. But he can't do that much. Why? Because that would go in accordance with the official narrative. He can't just bring himself to do that. He can't bring himself to admit that, hey, I got it wrong. Not realizing just because you believe in hijackers doesn't mean that you are somehow supporting the entire narrative of the federal government. Meanwhile, the irony is that the official narrative is an incomplete one and that the information that they withheld from the commissions and the investigations basically would bring about a bigger conspiracy that contradict that narrative. Is everyone here following what I'm saying? If only they would realize that far, it would be like a nuclear bomb exploding in their head. Like that.
An al-Qaeda agent or any other foreign agent for that matter would not risk outing himself by producing such a sensitive document unless he were German or working as an unwitting patsy or both for an agency like CIA. And then
That's a whole lot of ifs.
After July, the Jarrah double is kept separate from the other unsuspecting patsies who would naturally recognize the substitution.
Wrong. Like I said, because you don't realize it, we have video of Ziad Jarrah and Muhammad Atta together at Tarnak Farms in January 2000. So you're wrong. Your whole premise is wrong, just based on that, okay? You could go ahead and say they were doubles. No. Now, here's the conspiracy that you don't bring up. And this is the conspiracy that is basically rational. The reason why Ziad Jarrah stood separate from all the other hijackers was because he's meeting people that they don't want him to see meeting. Now, this is where I'm leaning on speculation. Take this with a grain of salt. Like I said before, he has an uncle named Assam al-Jarrah. Assam al-Jarrah is actually an intelligence operative for Libya, Germany, and Israel. He also was a former member of the Abu Nidal organization. There was actually a project, a German intelligence or Libyan intelligence operation that was codenamed Jarrah about some plane terrorism incident. He also has another cousin, Ali al-Jarrah, who basically was involved with the Lebanese paramilitary group Hezbollah. What Hezbollah didn't realize until much later, Ali al-Jarrah was a spy for the Israeli intelligence service for 20 25 years. Let me repeat that. His cousin, Ziad Jarrah's cousin, Ali al-Jarrah, was an intelligence spy for Israeli intelligence for 25 years. Ali al-Jarrah's brother, Joseph al-Jarrah, was helping him spy for Israel for 10 of those years. Google Ali al-Jarrah. Google Asim al-Jarrah. It's right there. When you realize this, you will notice the conspiracy, a real conspiracy, that involves foreign intelligence involving an al-Qaeda operative. What I'm speculating is that Ziad Jarrah was never really an al-Qaeda operative. He played one, but that he was actually infiltrating al-Qaeda as part of either Israeli intelligence or foreign intelligence, or a combination of both. And that he was providing real-time intelligence to those intelligence agencies, and that somehow they knew about the planes operation, say, in 1999. And that the Israeli intelligence wanted this to basically happen because basically what would happen is that the United States would respond militarily. And because you have neoconservatives and dual Israeli citizens like Richard Perle and Dov Zakheim and other neocons like Douglas Feith, Richard Armitage, and then you have neoconservatives nicknamed the Vulcans, who are part of the Bush family, a Bush administration, people like Richard Armitage and Condoleezza Rice and Donald Rumsfeld and Dick Cheney, who share a commonality with the neocons and the Israeli dual citizens because they want what? The invasion of Iraq. But the State Department wants the invasion of Afghanistan because that's where the al-Qaeda camps are. But that's not supported by the neocons or Israel. They invade Afghanistan first, then came Iraq. Does that sound like a reasonable conspiracy? Or does Jay Kolar's conspiracy make more sense? Doubles, not mentioning any of Ziad Jarrah's family with Israeli intelligence. I don't even know if he knows. And that was public in 2011. That's why Ziad Jarrah stood separate from the hijackers. That's why. Because if he's relaying information back to certain people, like he had to make a phone call that he can't say in Hebrew, right? Or if he's meeting with somebody and sharing intelligence about the operation, well, he certainly can't be around the hijackers for that. They'll find out.
For example, on August 27th, 2001, Jarrah's double registers at the Pindell Motel in Laurel, Maryland, a mile from the Valencia Motel, where the others stayed the same week. Jarrah's signature, that of the double, signature on the refund receipt also appears to be a forgery. 5, a radically different signature appears on the September 10th, 2001 suicide note to fiancée Senguin. This letter's all too convenient misaddressing guaranteed its surfacing in officialdom. Besides, how could he forget an address they'd both lived at for over 4 years?
Bingo, right? It wasn't a suicide note. Actually, it was a note to his girlfriend, Azel Senguin, and it was very cryptic. And for those who have never read it, Google Azel Senguin letter or Ziad Jarrah letter to Azel Senguin. And it basically says that Ziad Jarrah, I'll try to quote certain parts of it. So Ziad Jarrah basically told her that he will see her in time. You will understand what we did here. We will meet in a different place. He didn't say heaven. He didn't say, he left it open. But why? Why did he get the address wrong? How could he? Right? You're writing the last letter on earth and you get the address wrong because he wanted the letter found. Why? That's the question. Why? Did he basically know that this is a basically cryptic letter and that the public will see it? Meanwhile, Asa Seguin was interviewed by German authorities on September 12th, and that file is on my WordPress. And basically, she says that on the day of September 11th, he calls her and says, "I love you" 3 times, and hangs up. She found that strange. She's also in the witness protection program. Why? Because here I'm speculating. I think Ziad Jarrah is alive. I think Ziad Jarrah was that Israeli mole. And I think that one of the conditions was that he will go live in somewhere under witness protection, somewhere in the world, but that his girlfriend comes with him because he really loved her. Remember, he goes and visits her 3 times in 2000 and 2001. Muhammad Atta was against this, but he had no choice because Ziad Jarrah is a pilot hijacker. He was allowed. He got authority to go. He really loved Asa Seguin. I believe that. And like I said, I know I'm speculating here, but maybe that's a prerequisite of why she was in witness protection. Why would she go to witness protection? Out of all the hijackers, what about the hijackers' families? Why don't they go to witness protection if they don't want to be harassed? If you're going to say, well, she would be harassed, public, wouldn't the families be harassed? They're in Saudi Arabia. So, yeah, I think this is basically a prerequisite for Ziad Jarrah basically saying, I want to live somewhere with Asa Seguin. That's why he wrote that letter. Very cryptic. Or it could just be a letter and he got it wrong. You have to play both sides here. It'd be devil's advocate. What do you think?
And why would anyone carefully print his first and last names on an intimate note to his fiancée? Sequestered in a German witness protection program soon after 9/11, the fiancé Seguin's reaction is effectively suppressed. 7, also suppresses the fact that the Jarrah family proffered their DNA to the U.S. government, but the FBI not only rejected it, they lied they did so.
No, that's false. So what the FBI didn't do was basically get or request DNA from the families. Families were willing to give DNA. But because the families didn't believe that their children were involved in the attacks, and the FBI never asked them for DNA, they didn't offer it. And that's why at the Pentagon, where they identified the FBI through Dover Mortuary, they identified the human remains of the crews and passengers, but didn't identify the hijackers. But they were eliminated. There was a process of elimination. 5 identifying human remains that were not identified through DNA strands that were given by the family members, the crew, and the passengers, and also that what was in medical databases. So by process of elimination, they just said, "Oh, these are the 5," without really positively identifying through DNA. Why? Because the FBI never asked.
Wikipedia site, this is also very...
Wikipedia.
It's a pattern. It's that I've noticed that of substitutions or changes after our chapter came out and after the update in 2008, there were more changes. It happened a couple of months. All right. The Wikipedia site had correctly stated that the Jarrah family proffered their DNA to the U.S. government to clear their son's name, and that the FBI had implicitly refused this offer, never responding to it. Then, after I had noted these facts in my update to the hidden history of 9/11, the second edition in 2008, someone had gotten into the Wikipedia site. That was, our edition came out in July 2008, and somebody had gotten into the Wikipedia site in September 2008 and deleted this account of the Jarrah family offer the DNA, also broadcast.
Isn't that convenient? Right? Isn't that convenient? I mean, just stunning.
Publicly on Canadian CBC when they interviewed Jamal Jarrah, the good uncle of Ziad Jarrah. Subsequently, the FBI Pentbomb website stated, under the section entitled DNA, quote, this is the FBI, next of kin for Ziad Jarrah and the 3 other Flight 93 alleged have not provided DNA samples for comparison, unquote.
Anyway, there is, I don't know where he gets this from. It's alleged through Paul Thompson's book, The Terror Timeline, that the German intelligence service, the Bunder Kommandant, I know I'm butchering it, I'll just use the short, the BKA, identified Ziad Jarrah through Hazel Sanguine's girlfriend's apartment, in which either a toothbrush or something, some item had Ziad Jarrah's DNA on it, and that was to match what was found at Shankville. Take that with a huge grain of salt, by the way. We don't know where intelligence got that from, right? That could have been anywhere. I don't know where they got it from, right? But that was actually in the book, Terror Timeline. So, like I said, take that with a huge grain of salt.
Not right lie. Instead, the FBI said it went to the German BKA to obtain a search warrant for Jarrah's fiance's residence.
There we go. Yeah,
the question is, why have an entire residence combed for a DNA match when you've been offered the family's DNA? And that method was pretty convenient for them because, conveniently, the person that lived there, Sanguine, his fiancée, was gone. You know, she was in the witness protection program. So there's a German connection too. Undercover CIA handlers surrounded Jarrah, and just one of them I wanted to mention. His name is Pascal Schreier. He, like Mohammed Atta, was best friends with Wolfgang Boehringer, who turned up on an island. I don't know if anybody knows this story, in the South Pacific. He was arrested by the not by the FBI, but the FBI rejected everything, leading one to believe that Wolfgang was intimately associated with Mohammed Atta. Wolfgang Boehringer was the man that Atta called his brother. And he and about 6 other German people, that this was all in a story on videotape by Hopsicker. It's a story of Amanda Keller, who was a live-in stripper with Mohammed Atta in Venice, Florida. Well, she was able to out all this information. And then we find out that that one of those other associates, who was both close friends with Wolfgang Boehringer. By the way, when Boehringer was apprehended because a person, American living on the island, just so happened to be familiar with Hopsicker's investigative work and had seen his photograph. And so he called it in, and it was picked up by New Zealand press and news. And then that got out to the Joint Terrorism Task Force had to go and apprehend him. And when they showed up, well, Wolfgang Boehringer had a get out of jail free card, a free pass. He showed he says, you can't arrest me, I'm CIA. Okay, so I've been instructed to move to the, well, there's a lot more here.
Yeah, there's a lot more, but we'll end it there because that's the end. Wow. One thing we could take away here, I mean, we could take away a couple of things. Well, one major takeaway here is that you don't need to add the fantastical to an already remarkable story that has a massive cover-up involving a number of actual anomalies attributed to this, one of the most important events in human history. There's a ton of cover-ups here. Able Danger was one. The Yemen hub is another. The CIA not telling the FBI that two Al-Qaeda operatives were inside the United States. That the NSA were running a signals intelligence operation that goes back to 1992 on bin Laden's satellite phones. What were they talking about in those phone calls? The Yemen hub. What were they talking about in the Yemen hub? 5 years prior to 9/11. The NSA knew about this in 96. None of this is mentioned in his presentation. The FBI cover-up after 9/11 involving additional potential hijackers. How about the potential hijack plane of Flight 23 that TMZ just recently made a film on? If we go by the narrative of the government, that 19 Al-Qaeda operatives, well, who were those guys? Were they Al-Qaeda? Were they someone else? Well, that flies in the face of the story that we were given, right? So there's a lot of missing elements to this story that was not brought up by Jay Kolar. Why? Because according to him, everything else, even if it's not supported by the government, is still considered the official narrative because hijackers and hijacked planes. Once you stop at hijackers and hijacked planes, there's no going forward, no investigating anything relating to it, whether there's covert operations involving domestic or foreign intelligence, or about intelligence agencies doing the service of the federal government and foreign governments for a preconceived agenda of war and future policymaking. That's what 9/11 was about. 9/11 was used. It was the instant that they needed to happen. And how do you take advantage of 9/11? By pre-intelligence, signals, and human intelligence, by knowing about an operation before it happens. If they were talking about 9/11 on those phones years prior to 9/11, well, you can manipulate the operation before it happens. Make sure that the defense jets don't interfere with the hijacked flights, that the hijackers are basically ignored by law enforcement, that the domestic intelligence services basically allow for these hijackers to travel freely in and about the country, like Ziad Jarrah did in Dubai. You don't need doubles. None of this that's nonsense, not supported by anything other than speculation. Why do you need to do that? You don't need to add conspiracy to an already big conspiracy as it is. There's so many anomalies with this conspiracy, actual ones. So that's why I wanted to do this video. And basically, I hope that certain points were basically made understandable to you in light of what this guy basically said. And I hope you came away a lot more informed from it. You have to know what your adversary is talking about, whether it's from the media, the government, or even the fringe aspects of the truth movement. Sad to say, they're victims. This guy's not a victim. He might be a victim, and he just doesn't realize it, but he is considered an authority. He's at a hearing, and you know what? That makes the responsibility of him even greater than, say, the person on the street who's just coming to know about 9/11, because this guy basically studies 9/11, but he has a right, an obligation to inform his audience properly, responsibly. And he failed to do it. And he's not alone. So I can end the video right here. And I'll see you tomorrow for another video, or maybe the next day, but I usually put out a video a day. So guys, have a good night.